We talked about in a previous story how Joe Manchin is perfectly great coming out and announcing that he just wants to obstruct Biden's climate agenda in its entirety, even though much of the platform much of the proposal they were currently debating over was Joe Manchin's. He had said, hey, listen, this is what I'm okay with. So we're like, awesome, let's do that. And now he's like, nah, just kidding. Never mind. I don't want to do that. And he came out and said, I won't be spending any money on any climate related things, as well as all these social programs. I don't want to even consider them. And kissed goodbye Biden's hopes of doing anything popular. Very, very enraging. And what we've seen is just Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who are not acting or who are actively blocking action on so many important issues, being treated with kid gloves by the entirety of the Democratic Party. No one will aggressively hammer them except for a handful of progressives. But even someone like Bernie Sanders wasn't really most of the time going against them as aggressively as I would want to see until now. Really good moment came out of an appearance that Bernie Sanders had on ABC, where he stopped the host before she could even get her question out to make clear what he felt about Joe Manchin and make clear this is an active attempt by Joe Manchin to obstruct things that would absolutely improve Americans' lives, as well as protect the planet, as well as things like protect women's rights to choose. All of these things he's standing in the way of, and Bernie Sanders is not having any of it, and I live for it. Here's that moment.
Of course. I want to turn to Congress and the agenda there. Senator Joe Manchin, of course, abruptly pulled the plug this week on the Democrats'
Martha,
plans
he didn't
to
abruptly.
Pass.
Martha,
Okay,
okay.
he abruptly on Friday
He didn't abruptly do anything.
He was
has
negotiating
sabotaged
for a while.
the president's agenda. No. Look, if you check the record 6 months ago, I made it clear that you have people like Manchin, Sinema to a lesser degree, who are intentionally sabotaging the president's agenda, what the American people want, what a majority of us in the Democratic caucus want. Nothing new about this. And the problem was that we continue to talk to Manchin like he was serious. He was not. This is a guy who is a major recipient of fossil fuel money, a guy who has received campaign contributions from 25 Republican billionaires. Do you think this guy is serious?
Senator, okay, you say he wasn't serious, but Manchin says his main goal.
We'll continue on just a second here, but I love that. Because so often, the mainstream media's understanding of politics is the last 5 minutes and right now. That's it. It's like, oh, Manchin comes out or a report comes out about how Manchin is going to stop even negotiating on any of these issues. And the response is, oh, he abruptly pulled the plug on this agenda and blah, blah, blah. So then it makes the viewer believe, gosh, there must be all this push and pull behind the scenes. And Joe Manchin is just trying to, he really cares about inflation and he's trying to negotiate in good faith, but the more progressive people aren't coming to the table enough or aren't compromising enough. And it gives you a false perception of what's going on. And I love how Bernie said, no, stop. We're not doing that. We've seen since the beginning of this process, or almost the beginning, maybe a little bit into it, that Joe Manchin was not acting in good faith. He had no intention of getting good things done because of, as Bernie Sanders pointed out, his massive personal financial interest in oil, but then also obviously through campaign contributions. But he also has ownership in literal oil companies. Let's continue.
Is to do what's good for West Virginia, and he's worried about inflation. Listen to what he told the West Virginia radio station. Listen to this, please.
Is that right?
Inflation is absolutely killing many, many people. They can't buy gasoline. They have a hard time buying groceries. Everything they buy and consume for their daily lives is a hardship to them.
Your reaction to that, Senator?
Well, look, the same nonsense that Manchin has been talking about for a year. West Virginia, it's a beautiful state. I've had the pleasure of being there. Great people. It is one of the poorest states in this country. You ask the people of West Virginia whether they want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and eyeglasses. You ask the people of West Virginia whether we should demand that the wealthiest people in large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. Ask the people of West Virginia whether or not all people should have health care as a human right like in every other country on earth. That's what they will say. In my humble opinion, Manchin represents the very wealthiest people in this country.
And he's exactly right. I understand that because West Virginia is a more conservative state, Joe Manchin can get away with and get popular through blocking more progressive action. It's true, because it's all branding. It's all, ooh, Joe Manchin blocks the crazy progressives. And a West Virginia voter is like, hey, I hate the crazy progressives. Awesome. But when you bring it down to the issues, if Joe Manchin went to them and said, listen, I'm going to vote for this because I want to get you an expansion of Medicare. I want to get you childcare, all of these amazing things that were in Build Back Better. People would love that. And you can brand it however you want. I fought the progressives and got this and this and this out, and they're terrible, but I got you this, right? If he had a moral bone in his body. But because he doesn't, and he's just acting out of his own personal interests and financial interests, he doesn't do that. And Bernie's exactly right. If any state needs this action, it's West Virginia, one of the poorest states in the country, one of the worst ranked education systems, one of the highest in poverty, and all of these things where they need the help of the government right now. And we can do that through Biden's originally proposed Build Back Better. But we're not going to do that, or they're not going to do that because of Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, but we're talking about Joe Manchin. So I love it. I wish all Democrats who were in favor of Biden's Build Back Better plan would, obviously it's dead now, so you can't really be in favor, but who want some sort of action from the Biden administration, proposed by the Biden administration, passed through Congress, should be going that aggressively against Joe Manchin. And don't let the framing just sit. Don't allow them to ask this question where it's like, hey, Joe Manchin's just a good guy who has some concerns about, cut it off and say the truth. I love that. Great job to Bernie Sanders, and a masterclass in what other Democrats should be doing to tell the truth, honestly, about what Joe Manchin is doing and how he's standing in the way of progress.